555. It's a very interesting number. I don't think this number gets a lot of light shed on it. I think 555 is, it's interesting. Let's just talk about it. So, the number 5. Let's start off there. The number 5, when we're dealing with spirituality, life, the matrix, as some of you like to call it, basically deals with change or combat. So when I say that, it means there could be a conflict involved, but really when there's conflict, it really just means that it's time for a resolution, right? So in the big scheme of things, in the big scheme of life, conflict, combat, change is just all forms of starting something new, transforming something to the next level, starting the next chapter. It doesn't always have to involve conflict and combat, but just because of the world we live in, sometimes you do need that. So when you're seeing 555, the number 5, like I was saying, deals with conflict, combat, change, disruption, sometimes even struggling. Now, all of these things that I've mentioned are not always fun, but they're absolutely necessary for the human, or us as humans, to be able to evolve. And some people may not agree with that, but if you really look at it on some scale within your life, you've had to go through changes, because change is literally the only thing constant in this world. You've had to undergo usually some sort of combat, whether it's internally or externally. You've probably had to struggle a few times in your life in order to learn to value something. And transformation, I think, is the other thing I said, or conflict. Either or, we've all been through all of these things. That's 5 different ways that the number 5 shows up. And people don't like it because it's uncomfortable. Now, for some people, if you have certain placements in your chart, such as Aries moon, or I don't know, Saturn and Pisces, you may be comfortable with conflict. But for majority of us, we don't really like to experience things like that, especially if you're not a confrontational person. So seeing the number 555 can be triggering, okay? It literally can be triggering, because when you know what it means, it basically means it's time for you to stand up for yourself. It's time for you to put some form of stance of opposing energy towards whatever is holding you back. It's time for you to stand up for yourself. It's time for you to make a change. It's time for you to transform the energy. It's time for you to, you know, cause a conflict, not to be negative, but to get the result that you need to stay on your path. So when you're seeing 555, some people would say, oh, a change is coming. That change will only happen with your permission, with your willpower, because the number 5 is about what? Conflict, combat, change, but you have to do it yourself. You have to put in that energy. I believe 5 is associated with Mars, and Mars is the planet of war, literally. So when we're thinking of war, it doesn't always have to be physical combat. It can be mental as well, and I think people forget that. War is a strategic thing. So it's about saying, I want to get from point A to point B, but there's something in the middle that doesn't want me to get there. So what do I need to do to outsmart them, or to defeat them or conquer them in order to get to my next journey? So you can look at 555 just like that within your regular everyday life. Now, just because, you know, you're seeing 555, it doesn't mean that you need to go out fighting. It means that it's time to smarten up. It's time to be strategic. It's time to be more clever. It's time to figure out a way around the obstacle. Now, granted, just because of the world we live in, you may have to get dirty sometimes to do that. Not saying that you need to fight. I'm not recommending people do that, but I'm just saying sometimes you do have to speak up. Sometimes you do have to say, I'm not going to allow that. Sometimes you do have to say the word no, and sometimes you do have to turn up on people. Just saying. But the number 555 basically is supporting the fact that you need to figure out a new way to get around this obstacle. It could also be saying that 555, it could be saying that the person that you're dealing with, if you're seeing it all the time, they may be the obstacle. It may be a pointer to whatever the obstacle is. It could be the if you always see it at work, or if you always see it on a certain day or something like that. I don't know. Leave down below when you see the number 555. But if you're seeing it, chances are it's time for you to realize what the obstacle is, because sometimes the obstacle will be right in front of you and you won't even know it. So think about it that way. It's all strategic. It's not necessarily a negative number, but it means it's time to get some work done. It's time to do what you got to do to get to the next level. Now, being that you're watching my channel, I'm going to assume that I don't have to tell you to not fight and to not be destructive. But for YouTube purposes and for whoever comes across this video, please do not get yourself into any trouble, okay? Be responsible, be wise, be an adult. Live your life. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I will say violence is not always the option. It's not always the answer, but hey, it's up to you. Do what you want to do. I'm not responsible for anything that comes out of whatever you got from this video. But yeah, so that's 555. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all the people who are here. If you like this type of content, I do make content all the time. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I make stuff like this. I do tarot readings. I talk about astrology. I talk about philosophy. I talk about what's going on in my mind and just the way that I'm viewing things as I grow. You can literally come and check in and pretty much find something to suit you, whatever your taste is, okay? So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.